You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Very pleasant fall welcome to you wherever you're tuned into the Show Before the Show podcast this week. I'm just looking out my window and there's like yellow leaves and red leaves and it's beautiful and the temperatures are crisp and it feels like World Series time, and that is where we find ourselves here on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. So we welcome you into the latest edition of the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. Tyler Rahn, Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill. Gents, what's going on? How are you?
Pretty good, Tyler. I am back in New York.
You are shoulder to shoulder with Ben right now.
Yes, which is very, very nice. We were talking, it feels like it's been a month since we've seen each other, just because of all the movement going around this fall, which has been great. And we'll get into that in later segments, but yeah, good to be back in New York where there is actual fall. We are staring at a tree ourselves right now over the Avenue of the Americas, but it is the Christmas tree. And I kid you not, that Radio City has already put up.
What?
Outside. Yeah.
It is not even Halloween.
Yeah,
No.
but this is Radio City Music Hall, home of the Rockettes. And
Right, but don't they start that like mid-November? Well, I mean, I guess you got to promote.
Yeah, you got to sell tickets to that. Not to be all,
as though people
started by a conglomerate.
As though people don't know that, like, the Rockettes do a show at Radio City for Christmas. Who knew?
I mean, listen, man, if you've got a show that you're known for and you try to sell out for weeks and weeks and weeks,
that's true.
You might as well promote it.
Fun fact. One of the lone fun Mon family facts. My I guess she would technically be like my step grandma was a Rockette. My grandpa married a former Rockette. She was a Rockette like in the 40s or 50s. Pretty cool though, right?
Jeez.
Yeah, it's very American somehow.
Yeah.
It's get out of the war and marry a former Rockette.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
An American short story on that ASAP right now.
I'm gonna submit it to Josh Jackson, the most talented short story writer among us.
I'm sure.
That is true. I get it.
Fighting jokes.
The kicker would be fantastic. Well, let's dive in talking about this off season that is now fully underway here in minor league baseball. We are in the midst of tackling a massive project across the MILB spectrum, which you can find at MILB.com and at MLB.com as well. Our ballpark guides continue. We are, over the course of this offseason, from now through opening day, we're going to roll out a ballpark guide for every ballpark across the minor leagues, and we are very excited about that. I had my first one run this week. Ben has continued to crank them out. Josh Jackson is on ballpark guide duty. Ben, give us the rundown of what your latest have been.
Yeah, we've been talking about the ballpark guides on and off over the last couple months. And Tyler, it's great to have you on board as a ballpark guide contributor, and looking forward to more of those. As we've mentioned in the past, it's great to read these as individual write-ups, and we're happy every single time one gets done because it's just like another piece of the puzzle done. But where I think this project will really shine is, when everything's put together in one place as a one-stop resource for planning your own minor league road trips. So I'm just really excited for this to come together. My most recent ballpark guide, Tyler did the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. I did the Lynchburg Hillcats, Lynchburg, Virginia. That ballpark is now called, through a corporate naming rights deal, it's called Bank of the James Stadium. But it actually was known as City Stadium for the bulk of its existence. And that existence goes back to 1940. The first game that ballpark in Lynchburg, Virginia ever hosted was an exhibition between the New York Yankees and the Brooklyn Dodgers. And so here we are now in its ninth decade, 80 some years later, still hosting minor league baseball in the form of the Lynchburg Hillcats. So I think it's easy to overlook that ballpark, but it's the fifth oldest ballpark in all of minor league baseball. And just given the size of Lynchburg, Virginia, and how old that ballpark is, if you were a betting man, woman, person, you probably wouldn't have bet the Lynchburg Hillcats would be a minor league baseball team and, still going strong in the 20s. So I think it's a great story about, community commitment, local ownership, making the necessary improvements to keep that ballpark functional. And it's for how old it is. And, it's a fun place to visit if you like the classic parks. So read all about it. They also sell cheesy Westerns there, which is a Lynchburg specialty invented at a diner in Lynchburg called the Texas Inn or the Texas Tavern. It's basically a cheeseburger with some special homemade relish and a fried egg, but it's a Lynchburg institution, and you can get a cheesy Western when you visit the Lynchburg Hillcats and feel like a local.
And Tyler, you got to revisit Myrtle Beach, where you spent some time as a broadcaster. What was it like writing about that again?
Yeah, it was weird. I unfortunately did not get to revisit it like in person, and have not since I left there 10 years ago as the radio guy. But it was good to catch up. Ryan Moore, friend of the podcast, of course, who we had on the show a few months ago to talk about the viral run of Myrtle Beach's baseball bat beers, the beer bats, which are available at ballparks across the country, but for whatever reason, the Pelicans version went viral on the internet this year. It was really cool catching up with Ryan about, some of the ballpark changes and improvements and stuff that's gone on over the last few years. The Pelicans, what I think has been really neat about what Myrtle Beach has done, they've really seized on their affiliation with the Chicago Cubs. They've been a Cubs affiliate now for 7 years. And they have grasped onto that with both hands. So they have some Chicago themed concessions, which are very cool. Ryan told me about their deep dish pizza burger, which is a burger sandwich between two mini deep dish Chicago style pizzas, which sounds delicious and also like death. But the Pelicans, they have an area for micro brews. I know they do some of their own micro brewing, I believe, for Hops Heaven, which is an area of the ballpark where you can hang out at some high top tables and drink some local beers. They've got Southern themed concessions as well, being in an area in South Carolina where they're loaded up with culinary masterpieces, and then writing about the community of Myrtle Beach. It's such an interesting place for minor league baseball. It's a very interesting dynamic. It's kind of the opposite of a place like Lynchburg, where for Hillcats fans, the Hillcats games are the thing to do a lot of the summer. Not to say there aren't other fun things to do in Lynchburg, but it's a much smaller town, different community. For Myrtle Beach, the Pelicans kind of know, hey, we're never going to beat the actual beach in what people are traveling here for. So we make ourselves the baseball option, the fun, affordable family entertainment option for travelers who come down, tourists who come through the Grand Strand area to, hang out on the beach for a while, eat at buffets, eat at some of the, I believe Ryan told me there are 1,600 restaurants in a 60-mile span around Myrtle Beach. So the Pelicans kind of know what their avenue is, and they do it very, very well. So it was neat to get a chance to kind of revisit, some of the stuff that I loved about being there, and bouncing places off of Ryan to be like, hey, is this still around? Is this still a place where you guys go? And I was very happy. There was only one restaurant that I mentioned that he said, yeah, it's not really like in the staff rotation anymore. But every other place that I mentioned still was, including a sandwich place called Dagwood's, which is still, like, I haven't been in Myrtle Beach for 10 years and I still think about the Bubba's Kickin' Chicken at Dagwood's on a fairly regular basis. So, if you find yourself in Myrtle, get yourself a Bubba's Kickin' Chicken, Dagwood's. But it was fun. So next up for me is my maybe favorite stop in minor league baseball, which is Kinston, North Carolina, now home to the Down East Wood Ducks, historic Ranger Stadium. That is the next ballpark guide that I've got coming, which will be next week. Very excited for that one. Granger Stadium is much like Lynchburg. When you walk into I would say probably even more so than Lynchburg, because Lynchburg's been modernized a little bit. When you walk into Granger Stadium, you feel like you're walking back into the late 1940s in a very good way, in a way that you walk in and you think like, oh, it's 1949 and this ballpark just opened last week. It's gorgeous. They've kept it so well maintained, covered grandstand, a big cinder block brick outfield wall. It is a gorgeous place, and I'm very excited to be able to talk a little bit about Kinston and all that stuff. So this is fun. This is a project that Greg Clayman, who is one of our higher ups on the content side at MLB.com, he really kind of helped get the ball rolling on this with some inspiration from an English soccer pitch guide that he really loves. And obviously we have the world's foremost authority on ballparks across the minor leagues in one Benjamin Hill. So this has been a ton of fun. Ben, what do you have? Who do you have coming up next? Did you say that and I missed it?
I didn't, but it is the Richmond Flying Squirrels.
Another good one.
I'm working on that one, and no, we can talk about that one later. But the Diamond is a really interesting ballpark. They've been trying to get out of the Diamond for a long time. It's an old ballpark, but myself and you guys might, or people of a certain age, I find the Diamond to be a weirdly nostalgic place because it's the minor league equivalent of a 80s, early 90s, 70s, 80s, early 90s all-purpose
the
stadium.
cookie cutter. A
cookie cutter, big hunk of concrete, ugly and kind of brutalist, and much bigger than most minor league stadiums. So on one hand, you're like, this isn't a nice ballpark, but it speaks to me what minor league ballparks were like when I was a kid. And when I go there, I kind of like, I love this place. I'm gonna be sad when they're not there. And the team operates really well. In a way, they hurt their own cause when it comes to getting a new ballpark because they keep leading the league in attendance. I'm like, is there tanking in minor league baseball attendance? Because you guys should do this and prove that you need to go somewhere else instead of leading the league in attendance. But no, the ballpark needs a lot of work. I don't know how much longer it'll be around, but visit the Diamond while you still can, and look for that ballpark guide.
Richmond is a very fascinating case study in minor league baseball. That the Diamond essentially forced out a AAA team, the Atlanta AAA affiliate, which is now in Gwinnett. They were in Richmond, and said that they were no longer able to do it in Richmond, and ended up moving to Gwinnett to a brand new ballpark. And then the Flying Squirrels post up there and turn themselves into a national phenom in the same ballpark that the previous franchise said was no longer tenable. So it's a very interesting study in how a franchise is run, and they have obviously made good there in Richmond. Ben, you've also got what is probably coming down to the end of some of your in-person attendance stories this year from minor league ballparks, but taking a look at food around some of the places that you visited this year. Tell us what's coming up with that.
Yeah, I visited 8 minor league ballparks in 2021, a very low number by my normal standards, but a very high number as compared to 2020, which was 0. So it was great to get back out there, and getting back out there, I did what I've done every year since 2012 when I was diagnosed with celiac disease. I recruited designated eaters to consume the ballpark cuisine that my gluten-free diet prohibits. I've been recruiting designated eaters for basically almost a decade now. Taking pictures, taking short videos, getting their quotes about the food that they are eating at the ballpark. They do it on my behalf. They take those gluten bullets for me. But it's been a great thing. I always tell people, I hope I would have come up with an idea like this, even if I hadn't had celiac disease, because it's a great way to meet people who listen to this podcast, who engage with our work, who, even if they weren't too familiar, who are minor league baseball fans in some capacity, and get to know them and who they are and the jobs they do and why they love minor league baseball. So in a way, it's a great way to profile local fans in addition to the food itself. Anyhow, this year, especially because I'm currently on a 2-day-a-week parental leave schedule, I've not had the time to do my full-fledged individual write-ups on the food for every ballpark I visited, but I really wanted to write about the food beyond what appeared on, Instagram and especially Twitter, when I was visiting the ballparks. So I have a new article up on MiLB.com, probably my last, road trip story of the year, featuring all 8 of my designated eaters, all 8 of the ballparks in which they ate at, and highlights of the food throughout those ballparks. And, and it runs the gamut. I started the season in Chattanooga, which is a pretty cramped, a little bit older ballpark, and they kind of only offer the basics. But I went to new ballparks, like Polar Park and Worcester, and Fred Nat's ballpark, and Atrium Health in Kannapolis, and Rocket City Trash Pandas Toyota Field. So it runs the gamut between newer places, older places, regional specialties, specialty hot dogs, everything in between. I spent a lot of time putting it together, and I hope people will give it a read. Lots of embedded tweets, lots of food videos. You got stuffed mashed potatoes, you have lobster rolls, you have hot dogs topped with barbecue pork and macaroni and cheese, and you have a lot of things, but it'll probably make you hungry if you read it. And shout out to all the designated eaters of 2021. And the ones who are still to come.
All right, we are headed to Toledo this week, one of the oldest outposts in all of American professional sports. And Ben, tell us what we've got coming up.
Yeah, we're going to get into how the Toledo Mud Hens are a unique organization in that they also run a hockey team, the Toledo Walleye. No S at the end of Walleye. I think I just realized that just before we started taping. I was like, oh, make sure to refer to them as the Walleye and not the Walleyes. But the Toledo Mud Hens also operate the Toledo Walleye, and that's a lot of work for one front office to handle the operations of two teams. So we're going to explore how they do that with the Mud Hen season running into October this year, and the walleye season starting essentially right now at the end of October. The walleye play in the ECHL, which I just want to point out because I love this term. ECHL is an orphan initialism, meaning something that used to stand for something but no longer does, but is still utilized. The ECHL used to stand for East Coast Hockey League, but the league expanded to the point where it's not in the East Coast anymore, and it's not known as the East Coast Hockey League anymore, but yet they still call it the ECHL. The only other orphan initialism I'm aware of is AT&T is also an orphan initialism. And I'm asking people who are listening to this podcast to please email me, benjamin.hill@mlb.com. Hit me up on Twitter @BensBiz with examples of orphan initialisms, because I just think that's an interesting concept. Anyway, we did not talk about orphan initialisms. We talked about the Toledo Mud Hens running a hockey team, the transition between seasons, and we talked to a very special guest, and you'll find why at the end of the interview. He was particularly special to talk to on this particular day, Mike Keedy in the Mud Hens front office, to tell us all about a unique operation and running two sports within the same front office.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
The 2021 minor league baseball season at the AAA level went later than any minor league baseball season in recent memory, certainly later than any season in decades, all the way to October 3rd. And so there's going to be a shorter offseason for minor league teams, but not for teams such as the Toledo Mud Hens, who also run the Toledo Walleye ECHL hockey team. And their season, the ECHL season, starts October 29th on Friday, and Toledo's home opener is Saturday, November 6th. So there's no rest in Toledo. You go from baseball season to hockey and hockey to baseball, and there's always something going on. And everyone who works for the Mud Hens front office also has a role in operating the Walleye. So it's a complicated situation, but I think we can make some sense of it. And here to discuss it all is Mike Keedy, let me get this title right, the Director of Strategic Planning and Projects for the Toledo Mud Hens. Mike, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Exciting time of year here in Toledo.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about it. You hosted Mud Hens games up till October 3rd, and now the ECHL season is starting. What is bigger picture, broadly speaking, what's it like in the front office running two teams and transitioning from one season to the next?
Well, internally, we normally are finished around Labor Day weekend with AAA season, and we've always affectionately called this off month. This is our off month as we, transition from baseball into hockey, and having even a few weeks, 3-4 weeks of a buffer time between the two is really a nice thing, because we're getting resettled back into the arena, starting to talk about all the different things that we have to do to operate hockey games as opposed to baseball games. And even more this year, because we have not played a home walleye game since March of 2020. It's been almost 600 days. So we're really even more than a normal year. This has really been a sprint to restarting hockey after the prolonged baseball season. I would take it though over in the spring when the walleye could make a deep playoff run, which they have in the past. We've had walleye games into June where we're playing walleye hockey and Mud Hens baseball, oftentimes on the same night and same weekends. So the transition from baseball to hockey is actually easier, I'd say.
Yeah, and speaking of transition, not only transitioning from baseball to hockey season, but transitioning your baseball field to an outdoor hockey rink. Tell us what's going on with that.
Well, we do have one advantage. We're the only ECHL franchise to ever play an outdoor hockey game. We did it once before with great success in 2014-15. We hosted 2 outdoor Toledo walleye games at our ballpark at Fifth Third Field in front of 11,000 fans at each game. And now 7 years later, it was supposed to originally happen in 2020. It got postponed a year. 7 years later, we're doing it again. We have the good fortune of operating our own ballpark, so that takes out a layer of trying to find a venue to do an outdoor hockey game. But this holiday season on December 26th and December 31st, we will host 2 outdoor hockey games at Fifth Third Field for the hockey team. And that's underway right now. We've torn out the whole field. All the grass is gone. They're building a giant sandbox where the rink will be installed, and that starts on December 16th.
Yeah. And Mike, so many questions I ask of people who work for minor league ball clubs is how does the field play? You know, when we're talking about baseball, it could be a hitter's park, it could be a pitcher's park. What I want to know is how does Fifth Third Field play as a rink?
Well, what I always tell people is it is a baseball stadium, so don't expect the same type of experience that you would at an intimate arena, especially a smaller one like an 8,000 seat Huntington Center. But the good thing about it is this is not at a 100,000 seat football stadium or even a major league ballpark. The Fifth Third Field is an intimate stadium anyway. So the every seat in the house is going to be close to the rink. We run it from third base to first base, and it may not be as good of a viewing experience as an indoor arena, but you're going to be right on top of the rink, even at a baseball facility like ours.
Yeah, and going back to what you were talking about a couple questions ago of walleye hockey being back and how great a feeling that is for the first time since March 2020. You guys had to go through that process with the Mud Hens. You had to bring baseball back to Fifth Third Field. What did you learn about that process of bringing baseball back this spring, and how are you putting that into practice again this fall? I know there are different things, outdoor arenas versus indoor arenas, et cetera, but what have you learned from the spring and taking it into the fall?
Yeah, it's been quite the experience. I remember we actually had a home game, a walleye game, on the night of the day that the governor of Ohio announced essentially the closure of the state. And we played that game that night with no fans. And I can remember the press conference where at the time, the governor of Ohio said that it was going to be a couple of weeks and this isn't going to impact opening day. I remember he specifically referenced that in talking about the Indians and the Reds. And he said, this isn't going to impact opening day. It's just going to be a couple of weeks. And as we all know, that evolved many times over the last couple of years. So we played a game that night in front of no fans, and the following week suspended the season. Into the 2020 season, we made every attempt possible to do what we could do to safely play baseball. That didn't happen. The return of baseball in 2021, we geared up for the April start, and then it got postponed again till May. And everything that we went through, I think, really speaks volumes of minor league baseball and minor league sports. Every team sat on Zoom calls together, phone calls together, talking about all the different things that they were facing in their own city or state or jurisdiction, how they were solving for it, creative ideas to come up with solutions. I mean, we talk to every team in the state of Ohio, minor league, major league, every sport. We talk to teams from all across America that were trying to come up with creative solutions for pod seating and ticket selling, and how do you completely change the landscape of your ballpark and completely change how you sell tickets and communicate things to fans. We all worked on that together. And I think going into walleye hockey now, after not playing for so long and having that experience of reopening the ballpark, a lot of the teams have reached out to us and asked us about our experience and how we did it and the types of things that we needed to do. And we kind of have a team we're almost veterans now in this era of trying to open through a pandemic. And I think it gives us a lot of confidence in moving forward and knowing that we can do it.
Mike, I'm interested to know what the relationship is like between you guys and a fan base that you get to see basically year round. I mean, for so many minor league teams, you get into the summer and you get reacquainted with people, and then all of a sudden the fall hits and you don't see them again for 6 months. But for you guys as a franchise, the Mud Hens not only being one of the oldest franchises in minor league baseball, but in all of Major League Baseball and professional sports, and the Walleye have been around for a long time too, I think 30 years. So what's that like to have a fan base that you kind of get to be family with over the span of an entire year rather than just for the summer months?
Well, it's a great opportunity. As you mentioned, we have an advantage that we can continue these relationships at a high level with our fan base, with our corporate community, with all of our community partners. There's no gap. There's no off season. So we use the walleye games to talk about the Mud Hens, and we use the Mud Hens games to talk about the walleye. And we use all those opportunities to stay in front of all of our fans. And you hit on a good point. It's a great advantage for us.
Now, Mike, I remember when I visited the Mud Hens in 2018, talking to you about this. Everyone who works for the Mud Hens also works for the walleye, but it doesn't mean that you are working every home game, every homestand, every event. Because there's enough burnout just in minor league baseball. If you had to add a whole nother sport to that, I don't think people could literally get through that and live any semblance of a normal life or even just stay awake on an average basis. So it's a huge kind of logistical puzzle in the entire front office. Making the schedules, determining who works when, determining what people are focusing on at what given time. If you can talk a little bit about that, about just how this all comes together internally to successfully run two teams year round.
Yeah, and I've lived both worlds. We started the walleye. Toledo hockey's been around for a long time, but we started the walleye franchise about 11 years ago, and I've been with the team for almost 17 years. So I worked with the Mud Hens when we were just the Mud Hens, and in the almost traditional model of we were all at every game. We all worked a variety of different roles on game days and during the day. But when we started the 2-team operation, one of the things that we really solved for was, in order to make it work, we had to come to terms with instead of having a person that has a very specific game day role, we had to define what the game day role was and find a group of people that could execute it so that we could all kind of work in a rotation. So if, we have a manager of game presentation, but we have 3 or 4 people that can direct a game in the video room. That can take on that game day role. It's not the same person every single night. So that's one way that we organize our game day responsibilities and hours. We do it with a rotation of people. You can rotate into several different game day roles. The other way is, we have a larger staff than a traditional minor league franchise, obviously. Because we run 2 simultaneously, and we have to really be mindful about sharing the workload so that you're dedicating time in planning and dedicating time in executing. If everybody is just focused on what's happening next, then we can't get out ahead of ourselves. So we have people that are dedicated to, maybe in May or June during the mud hen season, their shift goes to 80% planning towards next walleye season and only 20% on execution of the mud hen season, while someone else might be more 80% execution and 20% planning. That's really hard to get to that point, but I think we got to that point after a few years.
Yeah, Mike, one final thing for me that I wanted to ask about is when you guys are planning out these events and you are sitting down and thinking about things for the mud hens and thinking about things for the walleye, they both involve Toledo, they both involve sports, but they are baseball and hockey. So what are the main differences when you guys are planning stuff out when you are trying to deal with the baseball fan base versus the hockey fan base?
That's a really good question. And there are differences between the fan bases. But ultimately, our primary consumer for both the mud hens and the walleye is families with children, and the kind of the wholesome entertainment that we try to cultivate is we have the same goals at both venues, and I think that we've had great success with. We find something that works really well at the ballpark, and we've had really great success creating that same type of experience or similar experience at the arena. But then we've also been victim of trying to do too much overlap sometimes. And over the years of about a decade of this experience, we've gotten really good at certain things work better on the hockey side and certain things work better on the baseball side. On the hockey side, we seem to have a higher percentage of diehard fans. And so events with players and teams and coaches and alumni and jersey auctions and, specialty nights, they seem to have a greater impact on the walleye games. And on the mud hen side, there's a less of the fandom. And I don't mean that people don't like the mud hens. We've got unbelievable support by the community. What I mean is the die-hard, checking the box score every day, checking the records, knowing the players. The percentage of that is a little bit smaller on the hen side because I think it's seen as more of a family night out, a community activity, a summer event outside. So we don't do as much maybe on the much of the events related to the baseball team, if that makes sense. That's the biggest difference.
When this segment began, we introduced Mike Keedy as the Director of Strategic Planning and Projects for the Toledo Mud Hens, and that is his job. But by the time this interview is available for public consumption tomorrow, Friday, October 29th, Mike Keedy will no longer have that title because, as it turns out, and I did not know this when reaching out to Mike for this interview, today is his last day with the Mud Hens after nearly 17 years. So I'm sure a surreal and kind of emotional day for you, even putting aside having to talk to, us fools over a Zoom interview. But to close this out, Mike, tell us how you're feeling as you look back during your last day on almost 17 years working for the Mud Hens and what it's been like to play such a role with the franchise.
Well, first of all, I think it's a really cool way to spend my last day because as you tell the story often, minor league sports is a community. We're in it with each other, and it's always felt that way. And it's a cool way to talk about it on my last day here. I've done just about every job you could do at a ballpark, and I've loved every minute of it. I've got 3 young kids now, 3 boys who've spent a lot of time here at the ballpark along with my wife. And I love it deeply, and I always will. And I will always support not only the minor league franchises here in Toledo, but anywhere and any place I can, because I just think it's a wonderful thing. And grateful for. I feel grateful today, and I look forward to a positive future for the teams going forward.
Well, kudos for all the great work you've done with the Toledo Mud Hens and the Toledo Walleye. I know I had a great time when I visited the Mud Hens a couple years ago and showed a lot of hospitality. And, we'll miss you in minor league sports, but good luck with the next chapter. And thanks for taking some of your final moments and spending it us here on the Show Before the Show podcast. Thanks for being here, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, huge thanks to Mike Keedy, by the time you're hearing this, now formerly of the Toledo Mud Hens and Walleye, and a best of luck to Mike, of course, as he moves on in his career. And that was a really interesting conversation. It's, man, it just feels so great that we're able to do things again. Like, oh, we're having an outdoor hockey game. We're able to let people into an arena again, all of it. So big thanks to him. And with that, Sam and I will move on as we bid farewell to Ben for this week and discuss a little bit more Arizona Fall League action. Sam is back, as he noted, in New York, got a chance to be down in Arizona for a couple of weeks and take in the Fall League. What were the biggest things that stood out to you? The thing that I think overview-wise is standing out to everybody is hitters are just crushing in the AFL this year. And ordinarily, I was talking about this with Jim Callis, our good buddy from MLB Pipeline yesterday. Ordinarily in the Fall League, hitters are a little bit ahead of pitchers because pitchers often go down to the Fall League to work on stuff. There's an assignment usually that comes from an organization, with the exception of, I remember a few years ago talking with somebody. Actually, it was, it was a friend of the show, Brent Honeywell, who I asked him, what did the Rays tell you to work on down here? And he goes, I don't know, nothing. I don't really know why I'm down here. Which is pretty great. But ordinarily pitchers go down with a specific thing in mind. And so hitters are a little bit ahead of them. But hitters this year are like playing on the varsity level while hitters are still trying to figure out the jump, or pitchers are still trying to figure out the jump from JV to varsity. It's been crazy, the offensive numbers that have come out of the AFL this year. But what else is standing out to you from your time in the Fall League and now being back and having digested your time there?
No, honestly, that's exactly where I wanted to start. So I'm glad you've noticed the same thing. In person, it felt that way. It's just that the hitters were so ahead of the pitchers, which is kind of backwards sometimes for how we start the year. So it's interesting to see that go the other way. Typically when people are in Arizona in the spring, it's pitchers roll up and they just have to throw the ball. Hitters have to get their timing down. Now it's kind of the other way around. Hitters have their timing down. Most of these guys have been playing up until September. And then just, we're trying to stay fresh either with instructs or back home for a brief time or whatever before heading to Arizona. I like what you said, Tyler, about pitchers working on things. I talked to Jackson Rutledge of the Washington National System, maybe the biggest name prospect they have down there. And he said explicitly, like, I'm here to work on my curveball and my changeup. My fastball, my slider are my go-to pitches. But I'm here to get some innings in after he had some injury issues, including blister issues this year, which were super frustrating for him. But if I'm going to be a starting pitcher, I need to work on my curveball and my changeup because the fastball and slider are there. He can go to those at any time. Now he's gotten shellacked early. Like when I watched him, the velocity is there. He's still throwing mid-90s, but in terms of the breaking stuff, I think part of it might be that hitters are just learning to sit on those other pitches. Like, yeah, you might have to work on your curveball and changeup, but I'm not hitting anything unless it's a fastball. These hitters are too advanced to know that, which kind of sucks for Jackson Rutledge, if we're being honest. Like, he needs that feedback of, hey, how is my curveball looking? And if you're not going to try to hit it, then what good is it going to be for me? But it's been fascinating to see that. Also, walk rates are kind of crazy. And I tweeted this out yesterday. So these stats aren't updated, but it's only been one day since they were posted. AFL pitchers collectively have a 6.02 ERA so far in the fall league. It's been 2 weeks and change.
Of
since the fall
course.
league began. Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, you could say it's Arizona.
Salt
It's
River.
offensive friendly environment. It's warm. There's a whole bunch of reasons behind that.
But
The league
that's
wide
extreme.
that is extreme.
Yeah.
That's very much extreme. But a big reason why that's happening isn't because of slugging the baseball. Like AFL batters collectively are slugging, I think 427, which is pretty good as a league, but it's not like, holy crap, they're hitting the ball all over the yard. It's because of walks. The league-wide walk rate is 14.6%. And if you don't understand what that means in all of the plate appearances that are happening, 14.6% of them are ending in walks. A lot of the replies I got to that tweet were people saying, well, it's the automated balls and strikes. Like it's the robot umps that's still being fine-tuned. That could be it to some degree. I'm not going to completely rule that out, but that's only happening in one park. ABS is only happening in Salt River.
Right.
Salt River is one of 6 ballparks in the Arizona Fall League. This is not a robot umpire situation. What I think is happening is a lot of these guys are gassed. They are trying to make up innings, but after a lost 2020, in which guys were trying to stay fresh, but weren't actually pitching the entire year, or at least in game scenarios, a lot of these guys are just coming at the end of a long season, some of which they were injured. So it's tough to ramp up again. Also, the 15-second pitch clock at games I was at was pretty frustrating for pitchers to deal with. Now you have to go through growing pains. The whole reason why the pitch clock is in place is to hurry the game up, is to keep action moving. There are certain guys who pitch really well in rhythm. Mackenzie Gore in his first start was one of them. I think when he was really on, he was catching the ball, he was throwing it right back, knew what he wanted to throw. And that's huge for him as somebody trying to figure out his delivery. Owen White with the Texas Rangers, he's somebody you're seeing have success early on here. I believe he was the AFL pitcher of the week in the first week. He's looked pretty good ever since as well. He's another guy who just kind of gets it and chucks it and works really well into that 15-second pitch clock. Some of these other guys, it's tough for them to look up and see that there's 5 seconds left and you have to kind of hurry a little bit. Now, I think they're going to get better at that as the time goes on. Some of them may have seen the pitch clock, at least at the 15-second level in low A West for a brief amount of time. It seems like guys at that level grew to be okay with it, and we did see game times go down. But right now, when you look up and you realize you have to make a decision in 7, 5, 3 seconds, control's not going to be where it needs to be. Now, as you grow into that system, guys will get used to that and know, okay, I need to make my decisions at 11 seconds, not 7 or 5. But I do think that's had an effect early on. There were a number of times where I was at games and there were multiple calls of automatic balls or strikes. And I don't mean that from a robot umpire. I mean from, hey, you took too long. That's an automatic ball, which honestly detracts from the point of the pitch clock. To have an umpire turn around after 15 seconds, announce to the press box, that was a ball. Now it's 2-0. So it's taken some time. I think some people who may have seen the first week and said, this isn't working, that was jumping to conclusions too early. This is a 6-week experiment. It's going to take some time. We'll see how things even out. I bet that walk rate's probably going to come down as guys get more used to the 15-second pitch clock. But it is worth monitoring as we go along, because again, it isn't that guys are slugging the ball all over the place, although there have been some impressive exit velocities. But the biggest number for me was that walk rate, and the fact that through yesterday, batters were reaching base at a 378 clip. If there was a single batter that did that, we would say he's having a great fall league. The league is doing that. So it's just something to keep in mind here as we're evaluating AFL hitters and pitchers for how things are going. If an AFL hitter is having a really good AFL, dig a little deeper, try to figure out why that is, get into the scouting reports. Is he doing anything differently, or is he just taking advantage of the environment, which is great. And you can't fault him for doing well, but just take it with some grains of salt.
Delicious grains of salt.
Yes.
What was the best thing you ate in Arizona?
I got to say, I failed at that. I was not great. I know. I had like some of the fast food staples. Like I had Whataburger for the first time.
Okay.
I did not know in my research, I did not know Whataburger was in Phoenix. So that was kind of a nice surprise. It's all over the place in Phoenix.
Yeah. Phoenix, I have said for quite some time, and I now live in an area that is soon going to be able to call this too, but Phoenix was like the perfect vortex of fast food burger chains because they have Whataburger, In-N-Out, Shake Shack, all of them in existence down there, which like Shake Shack, extremely overrated. Sorry, New York. But they're all very good. They're all there. And yeah, Whataburger's it's delightful. I dig it.
I liked it because it felt like fast food, but it also felt like the burger itself had been not handmade.
Right.
But it felt kind of like this was done by a human.
It felt like there was some care taken in creating it.
There were multiple pieces to it. It was difficult
Right.
for it to eat in my car.
Right.
Which, I mean, if anybody's ever seen me eat, a lot of things are difficult for me to eat in the car. But I take that as points in its favor. Like if you're just giving me this burger that everything's sticking together because it was made almost by a machine, it's not a great point. Whataburger felt a little bit better than that. I got in some In-N-Out. I will say I had tacos Chihuas multiple times.
Okay.
On the recommendation of our coworker and friend, Will Bohr. They had a very, very good chicken burrito that was A, satisfying, but B, was not too big. I think sometimes people get, especially nowadays, too wrapped into like, this thing is huge.
Right.
It's going to take so many bites to get through it. And
I
you're
feel
gonna
attacked.
Satisfied at the, I
That
finished
is
it. and I
me
was like,
every
I would
trip
like
to
an-
Chipotle.
Yeah. I would like another one, but I don't want another one because it just left me with that feeling. That's why I went back multiple times. Is like, I need to have this again.
Right.
And you want to talk about something that was clearly made by a human, made with care and ingredients sprinkled all the way through the burrito.
dig.
You're not just getting like your rice layer and then your
Right.
chicken,
Right.
whatever.
All right. I
So
dig it.
highly recommend that. Other than that, I was like almost too focused on the baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be like, I'm going to hit up this place and that place. So I can't come back with too many food wrecks, which is
Okay.
but
All right.
next time. I
You
will be
also
more focused.
you got a chance to do a little bit of touristing around. You saw the Grand Canyon, I believe, for the first time, correct?
I did, yes.
And also Monument Valley.
Monument Valley, which was a long drive.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was telling Ben before the show began, it felt like walking into a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Yeah, it totally does. Totally
Yeah.
does. You're just in a
Just
landscape.
surrounded by red clay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything feels very desolate in a perfect way. And it was a good reminder. I know we're going through a lot of climate change discussions now of like, this needs to be protected at all costs.
Yeah.
It's just another chance to kind of walk around in Mother Earth, which I really appreciate. I love New York City to death. I'm happy I'm back. But all of a sudden to be sitting around surrounded by red clay desert was a refreshing change of pace, and I highly recommend. It was a 5-hour drive to get there. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a hike. That was not a quick day trip for you.
No, it was not.
Yeah. But worth it.
Yeah, but again, like the focus was the baseball. It was great to talk to guys like Jeter Downs of the Boston Red Sox, who got off to a very fast start down there in the fall league, and at last check was leading the Arizona Fall League in home runs with 4. I talked to Lars Nootbaar a few times, no longer a prospect, but somebody who got sent to the fall league after being on the St. Louis wildcard roster and in the major leagues for much of the summer. The reason why he's in the fall league is to make up at bats because he was a bench piece for St. Louis.
I was going to ask you this. Do you feel as though there are more guys this year in the AFL who have big league experience than we see in an average season? Because there are a handful of guys, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know I watched that guy in major league games this year, and now he's in the AFL. And largely it's because I feel like so many of those guys did not get either the full innings workload or at bats that maybe their organizations would have liked. Do you feel like there is an outsized amount of those players this year, or am I just noticing them more?
I don't know about outsize, because one of my favorite examples of that was, remember Kyle Schwarber in the AFL?
I do. I was there the day that he essentially came down for a rehab appearance in the fall league prior to the World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's happened in the past. And I think, speaking of the Cardinals, though, the Cardinals were driving that process. I think Jordan Hicks getting sent to the fall league, just everybody was like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But again, he needed to make up innings somewhere.
Right.
And the Cardinals were like, hey, if this is allowed, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And they did the same with Lars Nootbaar. They did the same with Juan Yepez, who technically has not been in the major leagues, but they liked what he did enough this year at AAA Memphis to add him to the wild card roster. He was potentially going to make his major league debut in the postseason if they had used him in that game or if the Cardinals had beat the Dodgers. So I think the Cardinals kind of have an outsized effect on that, on how the way we look at the league as a whole. Ryan Vilade was there. I talked to him a little bit about that. I think he only got 3 games in the majors, but much of what we talk about.
His teammate Jordan Sheffield, who was in the major league bullpen also and on the Salt River roster.
Yeah, Rule 5 pick.
Right. Yeah, a guy who had to stay at the major league level in order to stick in the organization. But yeah.
Right. So I think those 2 organizations were kind of driving that, but it was interesting talking to Ryan about that and just saying like, hey, listen, this is supposed to be prospect finishing school. This is supposed to be for guys who are getting, not in a major league environment by any means, but getting put on a stage to show off their skills before eventually going to the major leagues as early as next spring. This is kind of one of their final steps for that. You've already taken that step. So everybody in that clubhouse is going to be coming to you and being like, what's the show like? Like, what are the hotels like? What are the perks like? Well, even if you got a brief taste of it, you're going to be the one with stories. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to tell them it's the same baseball. That's basically what it comes down to. So I think that it is fascinating that there are at least a handful of guys who have seen the majors this year. It's not exactly, if I was running an organization, the way I would treat it. I think Vilade's one thing, like 3 games is not necessarily a major leaguer make. I would not have sent Lars Nootbaar there, even if he needed to make up at bats. He got the major league experience. He knows what he needs to do to finish off. But the fact that he's performing the way he is huge for him, because he's going to be trying to win a major league spot again next spring in that Cardinals outfield, and maybe trying to elbow his way in with this improved pop that he's showing so far.
And not only Arizona Fall League time, it is also the return of Organization All-Stars time at MiLB.com. Org All-Stars back in 2021 after a hiatus in 2020 with no minor league season. But those are coming up. We've already got a couple on the way and out the door.
Yes. We have the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Atlanta Braves are out so far. One thing we got to stress with Organization All-Stars, because I think people get confused about this every time we do them, and we try to make it as clear as we can in the story. But one thing I really love about this is that it celebrates all minor leaguers. This is not just who are the best prospects in your system at each position. It is who had the best year in your minor league system. So if it's a 31-year-old first baseman who had the best year, he's worthy of celebrating, especially after the lost 2020 season. I think we can all appreciate good minor league performance when it happened, where, no matter where it happened, no matter at what age it happened. So it's a great opportunity to do this. I don't think anybody else on the internet really does stuff like this that celebrates the entire minor leagues in this way. So I love that it's unique in that way. And like I said, Arizona Diamondbacks and Atlanta Braves are the first 2 up. We're going to be rolling these out a couple of weeks for the next several weeks as we head towards the end of the calendar year. So check that out on MiLB.com. We do have a landing page for that as well. So if you want to check back, if you missed out on your favorite team, or if you want to dive back into the archives, you can look through that and see, who was honored in each league. D-backs and Braves, I mean, there's the big names are certainly there. Ala Thomas leads the D-backs. Shea Langoliers leads the Braves. Some of those spots you won't find any surprises, but it's also an opportunity to learn something new about guys that you may have missed during the season. So be sure to check those out now and also in the coming weeks. And I'm sure we'll be talking about them more as they roll out the rest of the 28 clubs here, like I said, in the weeks and months to come.
So we'll be back to wrap this thing up coming up next. Interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Minors. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Minors, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One had a fruitful existence. If you believe in the others, you're bananas. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A, the Bluffton Babes. B, the Levittown Neonates. C, the Ukiah Infants. Don't cry if you were one of the innocent naifs who guessed B or C, but A, the Bluffton Babes waddled their way through the northern state of Indiana League from 1909 to 1911, with the identity's parentage dating back to the 1890s. On the banks of the Wabash River, Bluffton was a famous piano manufacturing town until all the attention went to the Babes, who, led by Ducky Eberts, won the 1909 pennant before they'd so much as celebrated their first birthday. With Daddy Orr in charge in 1910, the Babes had to like their chances for a repeat. Near the end of that season, they got a boost from a couple players reborn to Bluffton, with outfielders Humpy Pierce and Dynamite Bill Rennard, both members of the 09 pennant-winning Babes, returning to the crib after a stint in the Kansas State League. The Babes also got a late addition in pitcher Kid Hall, but Humpy, Dynamite, and Kid only helped the club crawl into second place. Second place or not, the Babes were downright stoic compared to the infantile whimpering of the Huntington Midweekly News Democrat that August, which ran a story about the Babes schooling the Huntington Johnnies under the heading, "Again They Lose," marring what would otherwise have been a fast and entertaining game. The umpire gave the Johnnies several bad decisions in the match at Bluffton Sunday afternoon. But the whole northern state of Indiana League had reasons to wail and pout in 1911 as the circuit needed a change and was put down for a nap at the end of July. It sleeps to this day. And that's the rumpus on the Rumper Room, where the Babes once dwelt. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these tipsy teams tried to go from the bottom up in the minors of yore? A, the Clarksdale Ginners. B, the Morristown Shiners. C, the Portsmouth Rummies. Want to know the answer? Switch to T. Or tune into the next Ghosts of the Minors. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill has gone trick-or-treating and he's frightening all the children.
Saying goodbye for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, but next week we've got something fun coming up for you. We have done drafts in the past for our top prospects or our favorite AFL guys or whatever it is. This year we're going to do an AFL draft, but with a little bit of a twist, Sam.
Yeah, I don't know why I had this thought, but I did have this thought to do it a little differently than drafts we've done in the past and be the way I've seen other people do drafts. It'll still be serpentine style. We'll figure out who's going to go first and then who goes second. Whoever has second pick will have third pick as well. But we're going to go position by position. We're not going to have, it's just the two of us. So we're each going to get one catcher, one first baseman, one second baseman, third baseman, all the way down. But instead of like, let's say I want to take Brett Beatty with my first overall pick, well, then Tyler doesn't have to worry about taking a third baseman for a while because I'm not going to take one. So to avoid that, we're each going to make our catcher's picks first, our first baseman picks second, etc. But to make it interesting, we'll set a timer. We'll maybe do it 5 minutes. Maybe we'll do it 2 minutes. Who knows? But we'll do some trades at the end. We're not frozen in stone because, again, we're going in positional order. So maybe Tyler gets the first baseman I want, and I get the outfielder he wants. So we agree to trade our outfielders and first baseman. We'll see how it plays out. Might not be anything. Might be we're both satisfied with how things are. We make no trades, but yeah, it'll be involving multiple aspects of an actual front office. We'll have draft day and trade deadline day all wrapped in one next week, all involving AFL players. So look out for that. And I haven't checked to see how many AFL players are available on MLB The Show, but maybe we'll bring back that aspect as well. And we can our lineups.
That sounds fantastic. Plus I am in Colorado, so if I have a team that would be benefited by trading, obviously I won't do it. Before we get out of here, we have to dive into one thing that is currently setting baseball Twitter aflame.
We're
recording this on Thursday afternoon.
We haven't talked about this, and yet I know exactly what's going on.
Here is a quote, a tweet that was posted a short time ago, nary 2 hours, not even 2 hours ago. And here is the tweet, quote, bullpen refers to the area of a bull's pen where bulls are held before they are slaughtered. It's a word with speciesist roots, not a word that I was familiar with or knew existed. And we can do better than that. Switching to arm barn would be a home run for baseball fans, players, and animals. This is a tweet that, if you haven't heard about it, you may have guessed is from the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, otherwise known as PETA. Bullpen being a term that they are not into. Arm barn being the suggested replacement. I am on team arm barn, baby. Arm barn is hilarious. I'm bringing arm barn into my broadcast. Bullpen is done. Bullpen is passed, man. Bullpen is now Facebook. Arm barn is Meta, which is what also just broke a moment ago that Facebook is renaming itself Meta because that'll solve everything. Arm barn, dude. I'm in on arm barn. That's hilarious.
Arm barn is very funny.
It's so funny. It's so good.
It's the thing about bullpen is that we have to remember that all words are made up.
Right.
All words are made up.
Right.
All, like the idea, anybody who says like, oh, well, we have to stick with bullpen because it's tradition. Whatever, man. Like there's no reason. No. There's nothing inherent about a bullpen that's like, oh yeah, that's where the relievers are.
Right.
There's no bulls there. There's no whatever.
Right.
It's not even a pen really anymore. I guess there's a gate that makes it a pen.
Yeah, I guess sort of.
That being said, I didn't think this was something I was going to have to think about this morning when I woke up. Like, I've never thought, you know what, the bullpen could really use a name change. I don't know. Arm barn is fun to say, but it's also tough to say.
Gotta get this dude out of the arm barn. Our struggling. Get the relievers on out to the arm barn.
Yeah, it also for me it like connotes like we send him to a barn upstate is like just what happens when you decide that the starter is now going to be a reliever, which is something we deal with a lot in prospects of like, oh, this guy doesn't have a third pitch or it's not quite working as a starter. We're going to send you to the arm barn upstate. Just talk about sending somebody to slaughter.
Dude, I'm into the arm barn idea.
I wish I had like a better idea.
I'm into it.
I'm just for some reason I'm not latching on to arm barn, but I'm totally available to switch it up from bullpen.
According to MLB's official historian John Thorne, this is the reason why the area for relief pitchers became known as a bullpen. Back in the late 1800s, the term originally referred to a roped off area in foul territory where late arriving fans could watch the game. But as relief pitching started to develop, they moved the fans out of there to give relievers space to warm up to come into the game. So the term did not originally even apply to relievers. It applied to where you keep the fans who were late coming into the game. That's where the term originated. And man, amazing. Just absolutely amazing that this is a discussion that we're having, and I am into it. And you know who else is into it? Clint Frazier, who tweeted just a moment ago, now warming up in the arm barn. Who is that warming up in the arm barn? And then please name it this, followed by 3 cry laughing emojis. So, you know, we got big leaguers on team arm barn. I'm into it, man. Well, as I said in a tweet too, it just sounds like something that like Red Barber would have said in a broadcast in like the late 1930s, like, starting pitcher struggling here in the 4th inning. And that means Ira Hutchinson will get his wing loose in the old arm barn.
It does feel like,
that's not
when you call the penalty box the sin bin.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Like as writers, I don't know if you ever caught on to this at home. At a certain time, you just need to start using different words.
Yes, very much so.
Left-hander, southpaw.
Right.
Hurler, pitcher,
yep,
second base, keystone, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe we can mix it in there afterwards, like instead of just saying bullpen all the time.
You better believe that I will be throwing this term into a story to see if it gets caught.
Maybe I'll throw it into some prospect reports next spring too. He needs to improve his changeup, or else he's going to the arm barn.
We're doing it. We're making arm barn happen. Stop trying to make arm barn happen. No, we're making arm barn happen. I want you all to know. The world's worst Red Barber impersonation arm barn discussion. All of it is here on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. You can get in touch with us, podcast at MiLB.com. Let us know your thoughts on Arm Barn and anything else you would like to hear us discuss here in this world of minor league baseball. Next week, the AFL draft and some more fun stuff coming your way as we round the corner into November already here in the year that was 2021. That was 18 minutes long, and now it's almost over. So that'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. He's Sam. I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you next week.